Hello. Oh, sorry. There's a zip down the back of this top and it's like getting on the chair. Hi, welcome to my channel. If you haven't watched our videos before, my name's Ruth. I have got a little boy called Jet who is 17 months and we are expecting baby number 2. And we are, I always say we. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Is it we? Is it I? I am 19, about to turn 20 weeks. And I thought today, which you'll already know from the title of this video, I thought I would talk about my birth story. So with my firstborn, Jet, I wrote up my whole birth story in a blog just after I had him. But I just figured with the next baby, I'm probably going to want to do a little video for people to see, but also I think just for me to have to look back on. I think I just felt a bit weird, the idea of doing a video for the baby and not for Jet. So I'm going to talk on my birth with Jet, which obviously was 17 months ago, but still feels like yesterday. So it all began. So I was due on the 30th of April 2016, and on the 30th of April was one of my best friend's wedding, and she was marrying someone that I had set her up on a date with. So I really wanted to be at the wedding. I wanted to see my work come together in love. The wedding was in Norfolk. We lived down in Brighton, so it was a good 3 hours away, and I was on the due date, but I just really wanted to go. We travelled up to Norfolk the day before the wedding, stayed over, had the wedding, which was amazing. I felt absolutely fine, actually. I think it was actually really nice having that distraction and having something that I was aiming for that wasn't the birth, and having something that yeah, that just meant I wasn't like waiting for the baby to come. I was kind of like holding the baby in, like trying to, not obviously, but then on the Sunday we drove back home, back to Brighton, and on the Sunday evening we literally like got home, poured a cup of tea, and then I had the show. This is just a disclaimer now. If you're watching this and you haven't had a baby, or you're watching this and you're squeamish, my apologies, but it's a birth story video, so there's gonna be stuff in it that isn't necessarily the nicest thing. But anyway, so I had the show, which is basically when the like plug of your uterus that's been like keeping everything contained, that like comes away, which is a sign that the uterus, the bottom of the uterus is like starting to soften and open, and so you get this like mucousy, bloody thing, which is gross. But never before have I been so excited to see something like that. So yeah, that happened on the Sunday evening, and it was just the weirdest thing that we'd got through the wedding, got home, and then basically like it was like the baby knew that we were home and I was ready, and yeah, it was amazing. So that came, but I knew that doesn't mean that like labour's starting. You don't like rush into hospital. It's not like a film. You hear people refer to it as the mucus plug or the show. So with that, you know that basically it's going to be within the next week, but I mean that doesn't really tell you much. And that was Sunday evening, so we just had a chilled rest of the evening and then went to bed and was fine, was just normal. And then on the Monday morning, I woke up with just really faint period pains that kind of came and went throughout the day, but were totally manageable. I didn't want to get my head into this like, oh, I'm in labour like zone, because I didn't want to tire myself out and I didn't want to make the labour feel longer than it needed to. And I kind of knew with first baby, this first stage can take a really long time. So on Monday, what did we do? We just chilled out in the morning. Henry was off work by this point. No, he wasn't. He had a meeting. That was even on the next day. Yeah, no, Monday we just carried on totally as normal. Oh, I went into town and got my highlights done. And the hairdresser was like, oh, you look very pregnant. In my head, I was like, I'm in labour right now, but I'm not going to tell you that because I don't know what the etiquette is with waters breaking in hairdressers. And then throughout Monday night, yeah, I think I just slept normally. Yeah, I think I just slept normally Monday, and then woke up early on Monday, and the period pains were a bit more intense. What I did find is that from Tuesday morning, I just really wanted to be in my own bubble. I didn't want I just wanted to feel really like safe and protected and in our home. So I just stayed in this room. We watched loads of Friends, a few movies, watched Marley and Me, which is actually the film we went to see on our first date. So that's very special. And then Henry went to a meeting actually on Tuesday afternoon, and I watched Britain's Got Talent. I've just remembered that. And yeah, I had my birthing ball, and I'd say at this point I was getting more like contractions than just period pains, but still totally manageable, absolutely fine. Just that like kind of tightening feeling that would like ebb and then flow, ebb and flow, is that the word? Like rise and fall, very sporadically, probably every 10 minutes, but sometimes less, sometimes more like 8 minutes. Oh, did you hear that train? Sometimes more like 8 minutes, but yeah, very sporadically and totally manageable. And I just sat my birthing ball, watching TV, watching different films, having some snacks, trying to stay hydrated, just doing everything that I'd read about. He came back like late afternoon, and then we started building he's a very big Star Wars fan, which we'll come on to that because then Jet was born on Star Wars Day. I think that's when we put on Marley and Me, and we were watching that, and then we were building his Millennium Falcon like Lego thing. Yes, he is a grown adult. I bought it for him for our anniversary, I think our 4-year anniversary. And it's like this big Millennium Falcon made of Lego, clues in the name. I found it really therapeutic. So he did the building, and then I was sat on my ball, and I had like the big box of Lego on my lap. He'd show me a picture of like the piece that he needed, and I'd like look through, find it, give it to him, and we built it together. And it just was really nice having something that my mind was focused on that was kind of a physical activity, but not really like physical. I'd really recommend finding something like that that's not strenuous, that's relaxing, but just takes your mind away from what's happening. And so from about that point, like late afternoon, we downloaded a contractions app. I asked Henry to start clocking them. I would say, but he also could tell when a contraction was coming, because I'd start kind of breathing, and so you like clock it at the beginning and then clock it at the end, so you can see how long they're going, and then also obviously you can see if they're coming regularly and how far apart. So I think by this point, yeah, like late afternoon, they were coming more like every 5 minutes, 4 minutes, lasting like between 30 seconds to a minute. So don't quote me on this, but I think they say the best time to go into hospital, obviously as long as everything's going well and you're feeling, you know, comfortable and confident, is when you're getting 3 contractions within 5 minutes. Is that right? Lasting a minute? No, that doesn't add up. I think you should basically be getting a contraction every couple of minutes, lasting for a minute. That's when you know you're like in established labour. I don't know. Who am I kidding? But also, sorry, throughout the afternoon, just a couple of times we had phoned the triage just to like keep them in the loop of what was happening, and so they kind of knew to expect us at some point, and just to get a bit of advice. Oh, I just had a ladybird on my shoulder. How long's that been there? Ladybird. So at this point, I might just interject and talk about hypnobirthing. So I didn't know anything about hypnobirthing before getting pregnant. I'd heard the term, and I just thought, that's not for me. That sounds quite hippie-ish. In the early stages of the pregnancy, one of my friends was talking about it, and also my sister's friend had done it and had raved about it. And I just thought, there's no harm. Labour, at that point, I was like, labour's very scary. I don't know what I'm doing. Why not like find out about some different techniques that I could use? So I got the Hypnobirthing book by Kathy Grave. I'll put the link below to the book that I used. I didn't do any classes because, again, I was quite skeptical, and I thought, if I hate it, I don't want to have paid for classes. So I just bought the book, and I thought, then I don't have to commit. In March, February, when I was like 29 weeks, 30 weeks pregnant, we went to Hawaii for 10 days, which was amazing. And while I was there, I read the book, and I flipping loved it. It is the best thing I've ever read. I read it twice while I was on holiday, and then once again when we got home. It is such a well-written book, and if anything, even if you decide that hypnobirthing is not for you, it is so informative and educational about your anatomy, what is actually happening inside your body. A very quick medical scientific lesson on labour, and then she talks about, okay, so with that information, what's happening like factually in your body, she then talks about the approach mentally of how you should come at labour to kind of make the physical side as easy and as straightforward as possible. The main thing she talks about is how your mental state affects your physical state. Again, even that sentence I thought could sound a bit hippie-ish, but it's just really straightforward when you think about it. So she talks about when you're embarrassed, you blush. That's a mental state of mind that then shows itself physically. Labour goes along the idea of that these contractions are something happening physically, but if you can control your state mentally, you can help have an effect on what's happening physically. So in staying calm and releasing like positive endorphins and oxytocin, it talks about all these different like positive feelings. in releasing them, you can calm and like relax your body physically. And that for me is what won me over. She just explained it so simply, not like how I've just explained it. I'm so sorry for my explanation, please read the book. But it just made total sense. You know, when something just clicks and I was like, hypnobirthing just makes sense to me now. Why would I not want to do it? She recommends reading the book at about 30 weeks, because I think any time before 30 weeks, you don't really want to be thinking about labour too much, because it's just a bit premature and you want to give yourself time just to enjoy the pregnancy, and then start thinking about labour more from like 30 weeks. And then from 30 weeks onwards, it gives you some exercises to be doing, which we did. Me and Henry, my husband, were little class geeks, and we totally did all the exercises. 10 minutes like at the end of the day each evening. And it was just a really nice time actually, because we're both busy getting on with other stuff, and it was a nice time to come back and just think about the fact you're having this baby. And so the exercises aren't like really physical or anything, they're not like workout exercises. Again, she talks about labour is like a marathon, and you wouldn't go into a marathon without having trained. And so it's exactly the same thing, where you do these exercises to train your body, to train your mind, to prepare yourself for this massive endeavour. Anyway, can you tell I love hypnobirthing? Back to the labour. Tuesday evening, so I was doing the up breathing while on my birthing ball, doing our Lego, watching Friends, eating some dinner. And at this point, yeah, the contractions were getting more intense, and I found I couldn't really talk through them at that point. Every time they came, I needed to focus my mind and like focus on my breathing and kind of take, you know, be in that kind of calm space and breathe through them. And it took quite a lot of concentration to breathe through the feeling of them. I wouldn't describe them as painful at this point. I would just say they were really intense. Because what I think contractions, hypnobirthing also gives you different vocabulary that you can use if you want to. But for me, so she talks about contractions as, oh, what does she call them? Like waves or something, a surge. But for me, actually, I really liked the word contraction, because that is exactly what it feels like. It feels like your stomach is contracting. It goes like a rock and then it releases again. That for me was just the feeling, just incredibly intense, incredibly hard, but not painful. Anyway, so then Tuesday, we got to like 10 p.m. This is where we maybe made a slight error, but I mean, we didn't know what we were doing. It was first baby, no concept of the level that the labour was going to go to. I had no idea. I was like, is this it? I don't know. Am I just really good at this? Turns out that no. But yeah, so we just thought, it's like 10 p.m. I was like, I'm not going to sleep now. There are contractions every couple of minutes and they're quite hard work and I need to really think through them. I'm not going to go to bed now, so we might as well go to hospital. And I think I just thought that that was nice and proactive, and that if we went to hospital then maybe we'd help something happen quicker. So, but I was still totally, you know, like in a good calm space. I'd had my highlights and blow dry the day before and my manicure, and I was all dressed like, you know, in casual clothes but well, and had my makeup on, and we got my hospital bag and it's just all very romantic and calm, and we closed the front door and looked at each other and thought, oh, you know, the next time we come to this front door we'll be carrying our little baby. And we drove the 5-10 minute drive to the hospital, parked up, strolled into triage, and I just was doing my nice calm breathing every couple of minutes, and she examined me, is that the word? Can't think what the word is. Like, to see how many centimeters you are. It was 1 centimeter. I was so disappointed. I was really tired, not even from the labor, just because I was pregnant and it was 10 p.m. at night and it was way past my bedtime. And they were really lovely, and they basically said, we would let you stay, but it's just a really busy night, so you might as well go home. You'll be more comfortable at home. And she was like, oh, we'll definitely see you, you know, later tonight. So I was just a bit deflated at that point, and I kind of wish we hadn't gone in, but we didn't know. We drove back home, and this next few hours I would call the dark hours. And they were the hours when it was just actually dark because it was night. And I think night just makes everything harder. Night makes everything a bit scarier, and you just feel like the rest of the world's cozy and asleep and you're in labour. So we got home, contractions had really picked up. I don't know if the kind of all the moving between had thrown my body, or it just all kicked into gear quite quickly, and the contractions ramped up quite a lot. Then 11 till like 1:30, so like the next like 2.5 hours, they were becoming more and more often and lasting for longer and getting really intense at this point. And I said, I didn't kind of know that's what was going to happen, obviously. So when we got home, I said to Henry, why don't you get some sleep, because I'm fine. So he ran me a bath on some music that I'd chosen. I'd made like a little playlist of music that I find nice and relaxing. Just some really nice like piano music. And ran me a bath, lit some candles. And I got in and I just said, why don't you just go to bed, because you might as well get some sleep. I don't need you right now. I'll call you if I need you. And you know, when the baby comes, it'd be good if you've got some energy and then I can sleep or whatever. So Henry went to sleep, and then I had like, you know, an hour or so in the bath. And in general, it was fine. We'd set the mood really nicely. So I did feel really nice and peaceful and calm, and the water was incredible. That's another thing that I'm a massive fan of. We'll go on to talk more about water, but yeah, the bath was amazing. I just find, for me, like if I ever have a bad back or period pains or anything, water, like warm water, just like really alleviates the pain and the pressure, and that's totally what it did as well in labour. The only thing that was a bit rubbish was that it's just a normal bath, it's not a birthing pool. You're laid on your back, which isn't the nicest thing when you're in labour, because then the baby's like lying on your spine. So that's not great, and also it's just not deep enough. Like I'm very tall and my bath is just a normal bath, it's not some kind of special big glamorous deep one. So my bump was still like just, you know, part of my bump was like above the water. So then I'd get a bit cold and uncomfortable and I couldn't really turn. So it helped, but it wasn't amazing. And yeah, they were just coming more, and then the water was starting to cool down and I was just getting a little bit emotional and starting to lose like my headspace a bit. And this again is where hypnobirthing is amazing, because it really involves the partner, reading the book together, doing the exercises together, and then you both have the tools that you need. So that then in the labour was amazing, because then Henry, when I kind of started losing my mind, was able to come in with some hypnobirthing advice, remind me to be breathing and reminding me to be like, you know, putting my shoulders down and not tensing. And then anyway, so I needed him in that moment, and I called to him and he'd fallen asleep. He's gonna hate me for including this, but this is part of the birth story. So he'd fallen asleep, and the contractions were difficult at this point. They were tiring and I couldn't talk during them, so I had to wait in between each contraction, and I didn't really have the energy to shout out. And I also just quite like stubbornly and determinedly, I wanted to like stay in my calm state, so I didn't really want to have to like shout his name. Anyway, he was gone. he was asleep. So I had to get out of the bath and just like run down the hallway, naked and cold and wet. And then I just like went to our door and was like, Henry! And then ran back to the bath and got into the warm water again. And he obviously, poor guy, bless his heart, like jumped out of his skin, ran straight through. And we'd run out of hot water. So he turned on the tap of the bath and it was just freezing cold water, which was horrible when you're in labour and you just want nice, warm, calming water. So then he like ran to the kitchen and started doing runs with the kettle and like filling the bath with more boiling water. I also should add just now quickly, when I told him to go and have a sleep, he suggested that he sleep on the bathroom floor, and I insisted that he went to bed. So I feel like I should just say that for his sake, bless his heart. He kept like coming through and like filling the bath with hot water, and I think just the whole thing ruined my nice like calm hypnobirthing vibe, and I just got a bit panicked, I think, and the contractions were getting lower and lower, and they were feeling really low down, like right in my hips. And again, it's the first baby, I have no idea, I couldn't compare this to anything. So I just started panicking, and I thought, what if this is what if I'm about to give birth? What if this is like, you know, these contractions are hard work, they're very intense, I'm needing to use all my tools to see myself through them. What if I give birth now, just in the bath with no one here? So I just totally panicked, and I just basically was saying to Henry, we can't go to hospital, we've missed our chance, we can't go now, it's too late. He phoned the midwife, who'd seen me earlier all calm and blow dried and doing my nice breathing, and then he phoned her, and then in the background is me like, I'm not going to hospital, I'm not going to hospital, it's too late, they have to send someone. So then Henry's trying to explain to the lady like, so we can't come to hospital, my wife says she can't come, you're gonna have to send someone. And then I can hear them on the other line being like, well, you're gonna have to come to hospital, she's fine. I think they must just hear so many women go through this like dramatic point in the labour where they just think the world's falling apart or whatever. She was really good, she was really calm, and she was like, you just need to get your wife in between each contraction when she's feeling a bit better and she's feeling a bit more sane. In between each of those contractions, get as much as you can done. So, you know, get her out the bath, get her dry, get dressed, get to the car and get to hospital, but just keep pausing for each contraction. And she did say, she's like, we can send paramedics to bring you into hospital, but that will probably just take just as long as if you just jump in your car, because we live so close. So then this bit was tough. Sorry, my battery just died. My battery always dies in the middle of these videos, and I never learn my lesson. So in between each contraction, we'd quickly try and get out of the bath, then a contraction would come and I'd sit on my birthing ball in my towel, breathing through the contraction, then try and get dressed, and I literally just put on some jogging bottoms that I've been using to do some painting, and my t-shirt, and I think just my Ugg boots or my trainers or something. I had makeup down my face from the bath, half wet, half dry hair on top of my head. And we then got to the car, and each thing just felt like such a hurdle, just felt so far away to get to each point. But Henry was amazing, doing the breathing with me and reassuring me. And so much of hypnobirthing is just about kind of positive speech, just you know, trust yourself, trust your body, and you're doing really well, and just all these like kind of positive affirmations that just keep you in that really like nice positive mental state. Got to the car, drove to hospital. Again, the car park just felt so far from the maternity ward, so we pulled up outside the front doors, just put our hazard lights on, went up in the lift, and then we got there and Henry said he'd park with our hazard lights on, and the midwife was like, okay, calm down, stop being so dramatic. So she sent him back down while I went into triage, and then he parked the car and then got locked out. By this point it was about 3 AM. The main entrance to the maternity ward at that point is closed, and you have to go in through a back door, but the back door had got locked or something, I don't know. Anyway, Henry got locked out and was panicking. Oh yes, because sorry, as he went down to move the car, he overheard me saying, I think the baby's coming, I think the baby's coming, because the contractions were just so low and so intense. I thought that meant, I thought I could feel the baby, but it was obviously just the contractions. So then he gets locked out, and he just is convinced that he's basically missed the birth of his firstborn child, so he runs back in like white as a sheet, and it was fine, there was no baby. Did they examine me? No, I asked not to be examined. That's another thing with hypnobirthing I really like. Just the power that you have, and that you don't just have to go along with everything, you don't have to say yes to everything. It's up to you, it's your choice, it's your body, it's your baby. And so that time round, I just was, it was all quite intense, and I didn't feel like I needed to know how far along I was. I knew I was far along because of the feelings, and I just didn't want to be examined. I just wanted to kind of stay in my safe place. I didn't want to have to get up on a bed and lie on my back. I wanted to be sitting upright on a ball, and I just kind of wanted to be left alone. And they were fine with that. So they ran the pool for me. And Henry came back and we went through to the water, and I remember seeing the pool with the water, and that is all I'd wanted from the moment I had to get out of the bath. At this point, about an hour before probably, from the moment I got out of the bath, I just wanted to be back in warm water. So seeing that, I just got so excited, and I just was like a possessed woman and just went straight for it, just got straight in, didn't even look around at who else was in the room, I didn't care. Just got in, and the relief was incredible. So the heat, I mean, it's not like hot, so you don't get like sweaty. The warmth, and obviously it's a nice high bath, and you could sit on your knees if you wanted, and you're just fully submerged. But it's just the nicest thing. And I felt like all the stress and panic of the last hour or so was forgotten, and I just knew I was finally where I should be, the right people around me, I was in the right place, and I could just relax and know that I was being looked after and it was all going to be fine. Also, Brighton Hospital's gorgeous, so the pool rooms are up on the 11th floor, 12th floor, overlooking the city and the sea. It's incredible. And it was like 3, 4, 5 a.m. The sun was starting to come up. So then over the next, I think it was about 2 hours then, I had no awareness of time. I wouldn't be able to tell you if it was 2 hours, 10 minutes. I had no awareness. We had a lovely midwife who had like 2 buns on top of her head, and she was the sweetest thing, and she just sat really quietly in the corner of the room. I didn't really chat to her much. I just was like totally in my zone, just breathing, and I basically had my eyes closed, I think, for those 2 hours, sitting on my knees, like resting on the edge of the bath, just breathing. And we had, remember having Radio 2 on and just like kind of hearing it roughly in the background, and Henry had bought my like iPhone to play the playlist that I'd wanted to play, and he was going to go and do it, and I was like, no, just stay here. And I just wanted him. So he like sat opposite me, and I was like holding his arms. And I just couldn't bear the idea of him going over to the radio, which was like not very far away. But I just wanted him to stay really near me. So we just left Radio 2 on. The midwife came in and was like, oh, would you like a cup of tea? And I didn't look up. I didn't realize at the time she was talking to Henry. And I looked up, I was like, oh yes, please. And she was like, oh, you weirdo. So then she brought back in a cup of tea, which tasted incredible. It was the most amazing thing, because again, like with all the quite full-on intense breathing, your throat gets really dry, and water's nice, but water can start feeling quite hard when you're really thirsty. So then it was so nice. I had this like cup of tea on the side of the pool. So then in between contractions, your body kind of goes back to normal, and you don't, it's like very well designed, so it's not just intense for like a day. It's in between each contraction you feel like okay again. So then in between each contraction, I kind of like have a sip of my tea, look at the view, like just enjoy the experience. So I didn't have any gas and air or anything. I just used the water as like pain relief. Not because I'm like, oh, I can't have anything. I didn't mind. I was totally up for anything, but there never came a point where I felt like I needed it. And I didn't love the idea of gas and air. I'd never used it before, and I was really worried about making me feel really nauseous. Like I get queasy quite easily, and I also didn't want it to like affect me too much mentally. I didn't want to be in some like weird state. So I didn't feel like the need to use it. So then there's like this crazy shift when everything's been like this up cycle that hypnobirthing talks about, and it's all the contractions, and then you have this kind of few moments of just nothing, and then I can't even explain. The next stage was the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. This is my experience. I know obviously everyone has different experiences, but for me, my body just took over, and it was the weirdest thing. It was like I was having an out-of-body experience, looking down on myself, and started pushing, but it wasn't like a choice. It wasn't a conscious choice. It just happened. And the best way I could describe it, which is kind of gross, is like being sick. Your stomach clenches, and then like your throat kind of turns, and you're past the point of no return, and you know that this sick is gonna come out regardless. But you kind of have to like allow it out. You have to like open your mouth and allow the sick out. Giving birth, I felt was like that. I know it's a horrible analogy, but suddenly the like craziest urge like came over my whole body, my whole torso like tensed, and my whole body just like pushed with all its might, but I couldn't stop it, and I wasn't choosing to do it, but I had to kind of allow it to happen. And then it would pause, and it would be like nothing, and it would just be this like serene, like no pain, just calm, like fine, just back to zero. Then it would come again, and I just wouldn't be able to control it, and it's these like urges of just pushing and contracting. And so that carried on. I have no recollection. I think I remember Henry saying it was maybe like 20 minutes, half an hour of those. I just felt totally in control, and I felt really excited that like I was gonna meet our baby. Like it was coming imminently, and we were gonna see it, and it was just the most exciting thing. And then I remember when he started like crowning, I remember that just feeling like, oh gosh, this isn't gonna work. Like, how does this work? Oh my goodness. And again, the midwife was amazing. She was like, no, just breathe, and like was helping with like the kind of like panting breathing, just so you're not pushing too much. And yeah, it was just incredible the way your body just works. So yeah, basically I just had those urges and these like pushes, and then the weirdest thing is then his head was born, and then they turn. So their head is born, oh, I can't remember angles, but I think his head was born like facing down, and then his whole body turned 90 degrees, and like you feel inside you this like this like object turn. That was the weirdest thing. Didn't hurt, it was uncomfortable, it just was weird to like feel something turn inside you. And then like the rest of his body just came out, and I was on my knees in the water, and so midwife was kind of like back in the room, and Henry was here, and so I was able to like look down and just like lift him up and plonk him onto my chest. And oh, it was just the most amazing feeling, and your whole body, just like the relief that it's out, and that it like everything, like it's not like it takes a while to like recover from the intensity, like just instantly your body is just like, oh, it's amazing. So then I held him close to me, and the midwife was like, oh, stay down to keep him warm. So I had to like kind of stay down into the water that he was nice and warm. And I just remember looking at him and being like, hello, welcome to the world, we love you. And Henry was just gone. He was a mess. Not gone as in gone, gone as in, ah. Didn't Henry remember this the opposite way around? I'll trust what he says, because I probably wasn't like mentally with it. But then I was like, oh, let's have a look. And Henry thought I meant at the water, like let's see what's in the water. I don't know why. And obviously I meant let's look at the baby's gender. So I did a little look, and he was a boy. They give you like an injection in your thigh to help the placenta come out. I was happy to have that, but the midwife just said, oh, seeing as it's all just gone so kind of naturally and smoothly, like let's give the placenta a chance to kind of come naturally as well. So I just sat holding him. That was a weird moment. I like went to lift him, and I like could feel the umbilical cord, the fact that it was like still attached, and I was like, oh, that's weird. But yeah, anyway, I just held him. We waited till the cord had like finished pulsating. One thing that's recommended in hypnobirthing, obviously it's everyone's own personal choice, but one thing that's recommended is that you wait till it's finished pulsing, because then all the like nutrients and blood that needs to has like gone to the baby before you cut the umbilical cord. So we waited till that, and then Henry cut the cord, and then he had a little hold of Jet, and I saw if this is gross, forward through this if this is gross, but then I just basically stood up and the placenta just like came out into the water. And until that point, actually, the water, I was really relieved and impressed. The water was fine. It obviously wasn't like clear, but it gone slightly discolored. But I pictured just sitting in like blood, but it wasn't at all. It was like a little bit discolored, but not that bad. Then obviously the placenta came out, and then it all got a bit grosser, so then I got out. And then I think I maybe sat in a wheelchair, I can't remember, with my towel, and then we went through to another room. We were really lucky, because it was so busy, the ward was full, and so we went into a private room, which now I think with the next baby, I think I'd just pay to be in a private room, because it was so lovely. So from the water birth room, and went through into a room on our own with a bed and a seat, and then a little ensuite room. And for me, that made such a difference to our experience, because we were just calm and quiet and no one else around, and it just felt just really precious, special time. So I think next time round, well, this time round, I would probably do that again. And then we just spent the day in that room, and then went home later that afternoon. But yeah, that was my birth story. For me, it was a really positive experience, and I'm totally aware that's not the case for everyone. Everyone's birth stories are different. That was my birth, and it is like, it's flipping hard work. Like you are pushed to your every limit. Like I was knackered and scared at points and in pain at points, and it is hard work, but it is so empowering. It's so amazing to know what your body can do, and like with your partner as well. Like it's very bonding to like go through this thing together, and with such a positive outcome. I think in this country we're very anti-pain, which is obviously like fine, but I think like, you know, you get like the slightest bit of a headache and it's like take some paracetamol, and I don't know, everything's like how can you kind of dull the pain and don't feel anything. But actually pain itself, I think, is just your body communicating with itself, and it's just your body telling itself that something is happening. Normally it's something negative, you know, you need pain so that when you put your hand on something hot, you know to like take your hand away. But I think we've become too negative in the way we think about pain. And so actually for me, I found like hypnobirthing kind of helped me learn to not be scared of what we would call pain, or for me, I found with the contractions, not necessarily pain, but that really, really intense full-on feeling. It just helped me realize actually that's not a negative thing. It's not something to be scared of. It's not something to just try and dull, but it's just my body telling itself that the baby is coming, and that it's, you know, my brain telling the uterus to contract and to push and to do what it needs to do, and that those feelings are just part of the communication, and that it's not something to be scared of. Yeah, so that's what I've learned. Anyway, I feel like I needed to end with like a nice like punchline. But yeah, then he was born. Jet Josie Francis Marsden was born at 6:14 a.m. weighing 7 pounds 13 on May the 4th, flipping Star Wars Day, which his dad loved. Yeah, and he was perfect. It's been weird reliving this. Anyway, this video has been plenty long enough. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful and informative if you haven't given birth yet, if you're preparing for birth. I hope that this kind of helped ease your nerves. Please comment below with if you're expecting a baby or your birth experiences, or if you've done your own videos, like link them below, and I'd love to watch them. I love like hearing about other people's births as well. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you soon. Peace out.